Srimanta Sankardev (1449–1568) was a 15th–16th century Assamese polymath, a saint, scholar, poet, playwright, social religious reformer and a figure of importance in the cultural and religious history of Assam, India. He is widely credited with building on past cultural relics and devising new forms of music, theatrical performance, dance, literary language. Besides, he has left an extensive literary oeuvre of transcreated scriptures, poetry and theological works written in Sanskrit, Assamese and Brajavali.The Bhagavatic religious movement he started, Ekasarana Dharma, and also called Neo-Vaishnavite movement, influenced two medieval kingdoms, Koch and the Ahom kingdoms, and the assembly of devotees he initiated evolved into Sattras over time, which continue to be important socio-religious institutions in Assam and to a lesser extent in North Bengal. Sankardev inspired the Bhakti movement in Assam just as Guru Nanak, Ramananda, Kabir, Bisava and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inspired it elsewhere in the Indian subcontinent. His influence spread even to some kingdoms as the Matak kingdom founded by Bharat Singh, and consolidated by Sarbanda Singh in the latter 18th century endorsed his teachings. His literary and artistic contributions are living traditions in Assam today. The religion he preached is practiced by a large population, and Sattras that he and his followers established continue to flourish and sustain his legacy. Biography. After the death of Sankardev, Madhavdev incorporated narrations of his life in prayer services, a practice that was followed by his apostles, and in due course of time a large body of biographical literature arose. These are generally classed in two groups, early and late. The authorship of the biography credited to Ramkaran Thakur, Daityari Thakur's father, is doubted, and it is generally dated to the 17th century and classed with the late biographies. In general, all biographies consider Sankardev as an incarnation of Vishnu's, including that by Daityari Thakur, the earliest. The late biographies differ from the early group on the count that they ascribe supernatural feats to Sankardev, and describe miraculous events, and there is a tendency to read some events of the Bhagavata into his life. The biographies are full of contradictions, even though the earlier ones are considered more accurate. Not all they claim are true. Daityari Thakur's biography, the earliest one, claims Sankardev met with Chaitanya, which is now not accepted to be true. Early life. Alafakuri and Bordar Sankardev, then named Sankaravara, was born into the Shiromani Baro Bhuyan's family at Alafakuri near Bordar in present-day Nagaon district in c. 1449. Though some authors have expressed doubt that Sankardev could have lived that long, considering that he was of robust health. 1449 is generally accepted. The Baro Bhuyans were independent landlords in Assam, and Sankardev belonged to the Kastha Hindu caste. His family members, including parents Kusumvar Bhuyan and Satyasundya Devi, were Saktish. Sankardev lost his father to smallpox when he was about 7 years old, and his mother died either soon after his birth, or soon after his father's death, and he was raised by his grandmother Kasuti. He began attending Mahendra Kandali's Tola Chatrasal at the age of 12 and soon wrote his first verses Karatala Kamala. The complete poem was written before he was taught the vowels except, of course, the first one, and is often cited as an example of the early flowering of his poetic genius. He stayed at the Toll during his teens, and studied grammar and Indian scriptures. He practiced yoga and was physically very able, and according to legend, he could swim across the Brahmaputra while it was in spate. It is generally believed that he wrote his first work, Harish Chandra Upakhyan, while at the Toll. Mahendra Kandali changed his name to Sankardev while he was at school. Bhuyan Shiromaniship. Sankardev soon mastered the major scriptures of Sanatana Dharma and thereafter left the toll in his late teens to attend to his responsibilities as the Shiromani Bhuyan. He came to be known as the Dekagiri among his subjects and admirers. As Alafakuri had become crowded, he moved his household from Alafakuri to Bordur. He married his first wife Suryavati when he was in his early 20s, and a daughter, Manus, was born in about 3 years. But his wife died about 9 months later. First pilgrimage. It is possible that the death of his wife increased his already existing spiritual inclination, and he left for a 12-year-long pilgrimage. Sometime after his daughter was married to Hari, a Bhuyan scion, he handed over the maintenance of his household to his son-in-law Hari, the Bhuyan Shiromaniship to his granduncles Jayanta and Madhav, and began his journey in 1481. He was accompanied by 17 others, including his friend and associate Ramaram and his teacher Mahendra Kandali. At this point of time, he was 32. The pilgrimage took him to Puri, Mathura, Dwaraka, Vrindavan, Gaya, Ramaswaram, Ayodhya, Sitakunda, and almost all the other major seats of the Vaishnavite religion in India. He seemed to have spent many years at Jagannath Kshetra at Puri, where he read and explained the Brahma Purana to the priests and lay people. At Badri Kashram in 1488, he composed his first Bhagavad, Mana Mari Ram Karanahi Lagu, in Brajavali. According to Katha Gurukarit, the first Bhagavad was Rama Mari Hridayu Pankayu Bays, and he composed it in 1481 at the very outset of the pilgrimage at a place called Bromari. He returned home to Alafakuri after 12 years. During his pilgrimage, he became the part of a pan-Indian Bhakti movement and helped it blossom. Shiromaniship refusal. On his return from his pilgrimage, Sankardev refused to take back the Shiromaniship, though on the insistence of his elders. He took responsibility of 100 families, but he soon handed over the responsibility to his son-in-law Hari. On his grandmother's insistence, he married Kalindi at the age of 54. Finally, he moved back to Bordur and constructed a temple in c. 1498, possibly a thatched house, built on the original site of his father's house, where he could meet with people, discuss religious matters and hold prayers, and preach. He wrote Bhakti Pradipa and Rukmani Harana. Soon after, he received a copy of the Bhagavata Purana from Jagadish Mishra of Mithila, with Sridhara Swami's monistic commentary, Devising. Mishra recited and explained the entire Bhagavata in the presence of Sankardev, and this event is considered momentous in the development of Ekasarana Dharma. An early biographer of Sankardev writes, Sankardev listened with rapt attention to the exposition by Jagadish Mishra and realized that the Bhagavata was a scripture without parallel, a scripture that determined Krishna as the only God, Nam as the real Dharma, and Ekasarana and Satsanga as the indispensable elements of the faith. Quote, he also began composing the Kirtanaghosha, Sinayatra, after his exposure to the detailed Bhagavata Purana and Sridhara Swami's commentary Bhagavata. Sankardev produced a dance drama called Sinayatra, for which he painted the Saptavaikantha, guided the making of musical instruments and played the instruments himself. According to other biographies, Sankardev produced Mahanarta in the presence of Jagadish Mishra in the temple he had constructed at Alafakuri. According to Neog, this was the point when Sankardev decided to preach a new religion. Some of the first to be initiated into this religion was the wife of Jayanta Dalai, a leper named Hari Ram. Ramaram his associate and Mahendra Kandali his toll teacher. The 13 years at Alafakuri was the period during which he reflected deeply deeply on Vaishnavism and on the form that would best suit the spiritual and ethical needs of the people. Anantakandali, a profound scholar of Sanskrit, became his disciple during this time. He translated the later part of Canto X of the Bhagavata Purana after consulting Sankardev. From Malafakuri, Sankardev moved back to Bordaur in 1509 and built a than. Some authors claim that this than had all the major features of a satra, whereas many others assert that these features did not exist during Sankardev's time. This than was abandoned, and more than 100 years later, in the middle of the 17th century, Sankardev's granddaughter-in-law, Kaniklata, established it again. Literary works in the Baro-Buyan territories non-Bhagavata group Harishchandra Upakarana, Bhakti Pradipkatangosa, non-Bhagavata mixed with Bhagavata elements not influenced by Sridhara Swami Rukmani Harana Kavya. Lyrics Borgid, Bhagavata tales not from book Ekasarana Amrta Manthankirtangosa Ajamilapakan Pralada Karitra Hamahana sections Evi. Ahom Kingdom. Gangmatsu, Viswasinghe, began his activities to remove the Buyans from power in the western part of the Brahmaputra Valley in 1509. Furthermore, the Buyans in the Bordaur area picked up a quarrel with the Kachari neighbors, and when attacked, Sankardev advised the Buyans to move, which brought to an end the independence of this group of Buyans. Sankardev and his associates first crossed the Brahmaputra River in 1516-17 and settled first at Singari and finally at Ruta, and when Viswasinghe advanced towards Ruta, Sankardev moved to Gangmatsu in the Ahom kingdom. At Gangmatsu they stayed for 5 years, where Sankardev's eldest son Ramananda was born. At Gangmatsu he wrote the drama Patni Prasad. In fact, he lived alone at a place named Gathalasuti out of dissatisfaction with some relative. He penned the play there. Duahat. While at Gangmatsu, the Koch king Viswasinghe attacked the Ahoms. The Buyans fought for the Ahoms and the Koch king was defeated. Due to the unsettled situation at Gangmatsu, Sankardev next moved to Duahat, near Ahatguri in present-day Majuli, washed away by the Brahmaputra in 1913. The Buyans were settled here by the Ahoms with land and estate. Hari, Sankardev's son-in-law, became a Sikya, and his cousin Jagatananda, grandson of Jayanta, received a title Ramara. At Duahat, he met his spiritual successor Madhavdev. Madhavdev, a Sakta, got into a religious altercation with his brother-in-law Ramadas, who had recently converted to Vaishnavism. Ramadas took him to Sankardev, who, after a long debate, convinced him of the power and the efficacy of Ekasarana. The acquisition of Madhavdev, with his talent in poetry, singing and dedication to his newfound religion and guru, was a significant event in the Ekasarana history. At Duahat he managed to attract a wider attention and popularity, and he initiated many others into his religion. The popularity of Ekasarana and the conversion of people alarmed the priestly Brahmins, who reacted with anger and hostility. Sankardev tried to diffuse the hostility by meeting with them at the house of his relative Buddhakan and asking his Brahmin antagonists to install a wooden idol of Jagannath, called Maiden Mohan, at his religious seat. The Brahmins finally complained to the Ahom king, Suhungmung, who summoned Sankardev to his court for a debate with them. Sankardev was able to convince the king that he was not a religious rebel and a threat to the social order, and the charges against him were dropped. The hostility, nevertheless, continued. Flight from Duahat. Though the positions of the Buyans in the Ahom kingdom began comfortably, with Sankardev's son-in-law, Hari, becoming a Paik officer and Ramrai, His cousin becoming a royal official, the relationship gradually deteriorated. After the death of Viswasinghe, who was inimical to the Buyans, and the rise of Naranarayan, the Koch-Buyan relationship improved somewhat. Sometime in the 1540s, during the reign of Suklenmung, a royal officer visited the region for an elephant-capturing expedition. Hari did not make himself available, and furthermore, an elephant escaped through a barrier managed by the Buyans. The officer took grave offense in this dereliction of duty and arrested Hari as well as Madhavdev. At Gargaon, Hari was executed and Madhavdev interned for about a year. According to Datiari, taking advantage of the Koch advance against the Ahoms, Sankardev and his followers escaped from the Ahom kingdom as they fell behind the vanguard of the Koch army, setting up the garrison in Narayanpur. Further to the east, literary works in the Ahom kingdom, arguments against those antagonistic to Bhakti Kirtan Gosa, Patni Prasad, tales from Krishna's early life, Kirtan Gosa, Borges, Koch kingdom. Sunpura Sankardev and his followers reached Kapalabhari in Koch kingdom in later part of 1540 and put up there, but the water was very alkaline there. Several members including Madhavdev's mother Manorama died there. So after staying for some time at Kapalabhari, Sankardev and his group moved to Sunpura in 1541. At Sunpura, Sankardev initiated Bhavananda, a rich trader who had extensive business interest in the Garo and Bhutan hills besides Kamarupa. The trader, Narayana Das, settled at Janya near Barpeta and took to agriculture. A man of the world otherwise, he soon flourished and became a provider to Sankardev and his devotees. He came to be known popularly as Thakurata Patborzi. After a great deal of moving, Sankardev settled at Patborzi near Barpeta in the Koch kingdom and constructed a Kirtangha. Some of the people he initiated here are Chakrapani Dwyer and Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, Brahmins, Govinda, Agaro, Jayaram, Abhutiya, Madhai, a Jainsha, Jatiram, an ascetic, Amurari, a Koch. Damodardev, a Brahmin, was initiated by Sankardev. Damodardev was entrusted by Sankardev to initiate Brahmin disciples. A Satra was also constructed for him at Patborzi itself. Later Damodardev became the founder of the Brahma Sangati sect of Sankardev's religion. Among Sankardev's literary works, he completed his rendering of the Bhagavata Purana and wrote other independent works. He continued composing the Kirtan Ghosha, further translated the first canto of the Ramayana and instructed Madhavdev to translate the last canto. Portions that were left undone by the 14th century poet Madhav Kandali. He wrote 4 plays: Rukmani Harana, Parijata Harana, Kalagopala and Kalidamana. Another play written at Patborzi, Kansavada, is lost. At Patborzi, he had lent his Bhajits numbering around 240 to Kamala Gayan. But unfortunately Galyan's house was gutted and most of the Borges were lost. Since that incident, Sankardev stopped composing Bhajits. Of the 240, 34 remain today. Second pilgrimage. Sankardev once again left for a pilgrimage in 1550 with a large party of 117 disciples that included Madhavdev, Ramri, Ramaram, Thakurata and others. Thakurata had to return after just 1 day's journey. Madhavdev had to take entire responsibility of logistics. He, on the request of Sankardev's wife Kalindi, urged him to return from Puri and not proceed to Vrindavana. Sankardev and the group returned to Patborzi within 6 months in 1551. Koch capital and Belladonna. On receiving repeated complaints that Sankardev was corrupting the minds of the people by spreading a new religion, Naranarayan, the Koch king, ordered Sankardev's arrest, and Sankardev went into hiding. Chilere, the general of the Koch army, half-brother of the king and married to Kamalapriya, the daughter of Sankardev's cousin Ramarai, then convinced the king to give Sankardev a hearing. Instead, for the audience with Naranarayan as he moved up the steps to the court, Sankardev sang his Sanskrit Totakahim, composed extempore, to Lord Krishna Madhudanavadharana Devavaram, and as he sat down, he sang a Borgit, Narayana Kare Bhakati Karutera, playing on the name of the king. At the debate with the court pundits that followed, Sankardev was able to refute all allegations against him. The king declared him free and furthermore honored him with a seat close to the throne. Sankardev began to attend Naranarajana's court regularly, and received the freedom to propagate his teachings. Chilere was instrumental in keeping Sankardev safe and supporting his work. Many of Sankardev's literary and dramatic works were completed in his domain with his patronage and protection. Sankardev acknowledged his appreciation in his play Ram Vijaya. Sankardev shuttled between Koch Bihar, the capital, and Patborzi, his seat. He was often hosted by Chilere, and on his request agreed to have the images of the childhood days of Krishna at Vrindavana woven on cloth. He engaged the weavers of Tantikuchi, near Barpeta, to weave a 40-yard-long tapestry panel. Sankaradeva provided the designs to be woven, chose the various colors of thread to be used, and supervised the weaving. It took about a year to complete, and, deriving its name from its theme, came to be known as the Vrindavana Vastra. It was presented to Chilere and Naranarayan. A section of this cloth is preserved now in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. Chansai, a Muslim tailor serving the Koch king, became a disciple of Sankardev at Koch Bihar. When Sankardev returned to Patborzi some time later, Chansai too came with the saint. Sankardev frequented the capital for more than 20 years and enjoyed unstinted royal patronage for the first time. And he made arrangements with Madhavdev and Thakurata and gave them various instructions at Patborzi and left the place for the last time. He set up his home at Belladonna in Koch Bihar. During his stay at Koch Bihar, Maharaja Naranarajana expressed his wish to be initiated. Sankardev was reluctant to convert a king and declined to do so. A painful boil, a Vishafoara, had appeared in some part of his body, and this led to the passing away of the saint. Thus, in 1568, after leading a most eventful life dedicated to enlightening humanity, the Matapurusha breathed his last, after 4 months of his last stay at Belladonna at the remarkable age of 120 years. Literary works in the Koch kingdom: Bhagavata tales, not from Book X Bali Chalana Anadi Patana, Bhagavata tales from Books X Shi, 13 Kirtan Gosa, Gunamala Section I, renderings of Bhagavata Purana, Bhagavata X, Bhagavata Shi, Bhagavata 12, Bhagavata I, Bhagavata 2, Bhagavata I X Kurukshetra Niminavasada Samvada. From Ramayana Uttarakanda. Lyrics Borges, Totalubhatima, Doctrinal Treatise Bhakti Ratnaka, Drama Kali Daman, Kelly Gopal, Rukmini Haran, Parijit Haran, Ram Vijay, Visual Art Vrindavana Vastra. Parts of this work are preserved in London. Ekasarana. Sankardev used the form of Krishna to preach devotion to a single God, who can be worshipped solely by uttering his various names. In contrast to other bhakti forms, Ekasarana follows the Dasya attitude. Moreover, unlike the Gaudiya Vaishnavism of Bengal, Radha is not worshipped along with Krishna. In uttering the name of God, Hari, Rama, Narayana and Krishna are most often used. Sankardev's famous debate with Madhavdev, who was a staunch Sakta earlier, and Madhavdev's subsequent conversion to Vaishnavism, is often cited as the single most epoch-making event in the history of the Neo-Vaishnavite movement in Assam. Madhavdev, an equally multi-talented person, became his most celebrated disciple. Srimanta Sankardev started a system of initiation into his religion. He caused a huge social revolution by fighting against anti-social elements like casteism prevailing at the time. He initiated people of all castes and religions, including Muslims. After initiation, the devotee is expected to adhere to the religious tenets of Ekasarana. Though he himself married twice, had children and led the life of a householder, his disciple Madhavdev did not. Some of his followers today follow celibate life in the Vaishnavite monasteries, the Sattras. The people who practice his religion are called variously as Mahapurushya, Saranya or Sankari. Literary works. Sankardev produced a large body of work, though there were others before him who wrote in the language of the common man. Madhav Kandali, who translated the Ramayana into Assamese in the 14th century. His was the first Ramayana to be written in a modern Indian language. Haravara Vipra and Hema Saraswati. It was Sankardev who opened the floodgates and inspired others like Madhavdev to carry on where he left off. His language is lucid, his verses lilting, and he infused bhakti into everything he wrote. His magnum opus is his Kirtanaghosha, a work so popular that even today it is found in many households in Assam. It contains narrative verses glorifying Krishna meant for community singing. It is a bhakti kava par excellence, written in a lively and simple language. It has stories and songs for amusement. It delights the young with true poetic beauty, and elderly people find here religious instruction and wisdom. For most of his works, he used the Assamese language of the period so the lay person could read and understand them. But for dramatic effect in his songs and dramas he used Brajavali, medieval Maithili. Other literary works include the rendering of 8 books of the Bhagavata Purana, including the Adidasama, Harishchandra Upakarana, Bhakti Prada, the Nimi Navajada Samvada, Bhakti Ratnakara, Anadi Patana, Gunamala, and many plays like Rukmani Haran, Patni Prasad, Kelly Gopal, Kurukshetra Yatra and Sri Rama Vijaya. There was thus a flowering of great bhakti literature during his long life of 120 years. Poetic works: Kirtanaghosha, Harishchandra Upakarana, Rukmani Harana, Ajamalapakarana, Bali Chalana, Kurukshetra Yatra, Gopi Adava Samvada, Amrta Manthana, Krishna Prayana Pandavanirayana, Kamajaya, Bhakti Theory Bhakti Pradipa, Anadi Patana, Nimi Navajada Samvada, Bhakti Ratnakara, Gunamala. Transliteration Bhagavata and Amp. 12. Ramayana. His translation of the Bhagavata is actually a transcreation, because he translates not just the words but the idiom and the physiognomy too. He has adapted the original text to the local land and people, and most importantly for the purpose of bhakti. Portions of the original were left out or elaborated where appropriate. For example, he suppressed the portions that revile the lowest castes of Sudra and Kaivatas, and extols them elsewhere. Drama Sina Yatra, Patni Prasada, Jantma Jatra, Kangsabada, Parijata Harana, Kali Damana, Rukmani Harana, Kelly Gopala, Sri Rama Vijaya. Sankardev was the fountainhead of the Ankian art, a form of one-act play. His Sina Yatra is regarded as one of the first open-air theatrical performances in the world. Sina Yatra was probably a dance drama, and no text of that show is available today. Innovation considerations like the presence of a sutradhara on the stage, use of masks, etc., were used later in the plays of Bertolt Brecht and other eminent playwrights. These cultural traditions still form an integral part of the heritage of the Assamese people. Songs Borgit, Bhatima Deva Bhatima, panegyrics to God Nat Bhatima, for use in dramas Raja Bhatima, panegyrics to King Naranarayan. The Borges are devotional songs, set to music and sung in various raga styles. These styles are slightly different from either the Hindustani or the Carnatic styles. The songs themselves are written in the Brajavali language. Dance, Satriya dance, that Sankardev first conceived and developed and which was later preserved for centuries by the Sattras, is now among the classical dance forms of India. Although certain devout Sankarit calls this form as Sankari dance, visual arts Saptavakantha, part of the Cinayatra production, does not exist today. Vrindavana Vastra, parts of this work are preserved in London. The famous Vrindavana Vastra, the cloth of Vrindavan, a 120 by 60 cubits tapestry depicted the Leelas of Lord Krishna at Vrindavan through richly woven and embroidered designs on silk. A specimen, believed to be a part of this work, is at the Association pour la Retour de la Documentation des Textiles de C collection at Paris. The Vastra, commissioned by Koch King Naranarajana, was woven by 12 master weavers in Barpeta under the supervision of Sankardev over a period of 6 months and completed towards the end of 1554. This textile art depicted the life and deeds of Lord Krishna, who is worshipped in Ekasarana Dharma. The cloth was housed in the royal court of Koch after the saint presented it to the king, but it disappeared at some point. It is believed that parts of this cloth made its way to Tibet and from there to its present place.